The wreckage of Research Station Omega-7 drifted through the void like the scattered bones of some cosmic leviathan. Captain Dex Morrison guided his salvage vessel, the Nebula Runner, through the debris field with practiced ease, his weathered hands steady on the controls despite the coffee that had gone cold hours ago. "Anything worth our time out there, Jake?" Dex called to his second-in-command, Lieutenant Jake Torres, who was hunched over the sensor array. "Mostly scrap metal and regret," Jake replied, pushing a strand of dark hair from his eyes. "Oh, wait, I'm picking up something unusual." Grid reference 77. Alpha. Looks like an intact escape pod. X. Felt his pulse quicken. Intact pods meant potential survivors, and survivors meant rescue bounties from grateful families or corporations. More importantly, they meant doing the right thing in a galaxy that seemed increasingly short of right things. "Zara, scan that pod for life signs," Dex commanded. The ship's AI materialized as a shimmering hologram, her form deliberately designed to be attractive yet aloof. "Scanning now, Captain." "Oh my. This is interesting." Define interesting. Single life form. Definitely alive, but in some form of stasis. Bio readings are ... unusual. The genetic markers don't match any known human variants, and there's some kind of energy field surrounding the pod. Jake frowned. Could be a trap. Pirates have been known to use fake distress signals. Dex studied the tactical display. The pod was sleek, its hull composed of materials he didn't recognize. It pulsed with a soft, blue-white light that seemed almost organic. Something about it called to him, though he couldn't explain why. "Bring it aboard," he decided. Captain Jake protested. Standard protocol. Standard protocol has kept us alive this long, but it's also kept us poor and cynical," Dex interrupted. "Sometimes you have to take a leap of faith." The Nebula Runner's cargo bay filled with the hiss of equalizing atmosphere as they drew the pod inside. Dex and Jake approached it cautiously, sidearms drawn but not aimed. The pod's surface was warm to the touch, and intricate patterns seemed to flow beneath its translucent hull like liquid starlight. "Zara, can you open it?" The locking mechanism is responding to proximity. "It wants to open, Captain." With a sound like a soft sigh, the pod split along invisible seams. Mist escaped in gossamer tendrils, and within the crystalline interior lay the most beautiful woman Dex had ever seen. She appeared young, perhaps in her mid-20s, with silver hair that seemed to catch light from sources that didn't exist. Her skin had a subtle luminescence, as if lit from within by captured moonbeams. She wore a form-fitting suit of the same material as the pod, and even unconscious, there was something regal about her bearing. But it was her ears that marked her as non-human, elongated and gracefully pointed, like delicate shells carved from pearl. "Well," Jake breathed, "she's definitely not from around here." Dex felt his breath catch as her eyes fluttered open. They were the deep blue of Earth's forgotten oceans, flecked with silver like distant stars. When her gaze found his, he felt something shift inside his chest, as if a key had turned in a lock he hadn't known existed. "You're safe," he said softly, holstering his weapon and extending his hand. "I'm Captain Dex Morrison." She studied his face with an intensity that made him feel exposed, as if she were reading volumes written in languages he'd forgotten he knew. When she spoke, her voice was melodic, touched with an accent he couldn't place. "I am Naya Solaris," she said, accepting his help to sit up. "You... You rescued me." "Standard operating procedure," Dex replied, though they both knew it wasn't entirely true. Naya's lips curved in a small smile that made his heart skip. "Nothing about this situation feels standard, Captain Morrison." Jake cleared his throat. "Ma'am, we'll need to run some medical checks, and there are questions about what happened to the station later," Dex said, surprising himself with the firmness in his voice. "Let's get her to the medical bay first." As they helped Naya to her feet, she stumbled slightly, and Dex caught her against his chest. For a moment, they stood frozen, and he could swear he felt electricity pass between them. Her scent was like ozone after lightning, clean and charged with possibility. "Thank you," she whispered, and he realized his arms were still around her. "Don't mention it," he managed, stepping back with what he hoped looked like professional concern rather than reluctance. As they made their way through the ship's corridors, Dex noticed how Naya's eyes tracked everything with keen intelligence. She wasn't just observing, she was memorizing, cataloging, learning. It should have been concerning, but instead he found himself hoping she approved of what she saw. In the medical bay, Dr. Finn Reeves ran preliminary scans while Naya rested. On the examination table, the readings were unlike anything in their databases. Her cellular structure is partially crystalline, Finn reported quietly to Dex. And there's some kind of quantum field effect I can't explain. Captain, what exactly did we pull out of that wreckage? Before Dex could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Zara's voice echoed urgently through the comm system. Captain, we have company. 3 Dominion Empire warships just dropped out of hyperspace, and they're heading straight for us. Dex felt ice form in his stomach. The Dominion didn't waste time on small-time salvagers, unless they had very good reason. Naya sat up abruptly, her face pale. They found me, she whispered. Captain Morrison, if you value your crew's lives, you need to run now. Why are they after you? Dex demanded. Naya's eyes met his, and he saw fear. They're not for herself, but for him. Because I'm not just a survivor, Captain. I'm what they've been hunting across 3 systems. She reached out and touched his hand, and he felt that electric connection again, stronger this time. I'm their most dangerous experiment, and I've just become their greatest failure. The ship shuddered as the first warning shots bracketed their position. In the space of minutes, Dex's routine salvage operation had become a desperate flight for survival. With a mysterious woman who made his heart race, and enemies who would stop at nothing to reclaim her. As he ran for the bridge, one thought echoed. In his mind, sometimes when you rescued someone from the darkness, you discovered they were the light you'd been searching for all along. The chase was about to begin. The Nebula runner shuddered as Dominion pulse cannons lit up the space around them. Dex threw the ship into a spiraling dive between the twisted remains of station debris, using the wreckage as cover while his mind raced through escape vectors. Zara. Plot a jump to the Kepler Nebula, he barked, fingers dancing across the control console. Jump drive is charging, Captain, but we need 3 more minutes, the AI replied, her usual sardonic tone replaced by urgency. Behind him, Naya had followed them to the bridge despite Dr. Reeves' protests. She stood with her hand pressed against the bulkhead, eyes closed in concentration. The ship's lights flickered strangely around her. What are you doing? Jake demanded, weapon half drawn. Helping, Naya murmured. Suddenly, the Nebula runners' engines hummed with newfound power, and their acceleration increased beyond normal parameters. Dex stared at the readings in disbelief. How was that possible? My people have an affinity for technology, Naya said, opening her eyes. We can interface directly with quantum systems. Your people? Dr. Reeves had arrived on the bridge, medical scanner in hand. Miss Solaris, I need to discuss your test results. A massive explosion rocked the ship as a Dominion missile found its mark. Emergency lighting bathed everything in crimson as the communications array crackled to life with an incoming transmission. The view screen filled with the stern face of Admiral Marcus Voss, his silver hair immaculately groomed despite being aboard a warship in active pursuit. His pale eyes held the cold calculation of a man who'd built his career on other people's suffering. Captain Morrison, Voss said, his voice cultured but edged with menace. You are harboring stolen Dominion property. Surrender the Celestian. Prototype immediately, and your crew will be permitted to live. Celestian. Dex looked at Naya, who had gone deathly pale. I thought your people were extinct. There, Voss continued, apparently overhearing. This creature is a synthetic reproduction built from salvaged genetic material and quantum-engineered to infiltrate human colonies. She's a weapon, Captain, designed to form emotional bonds with her targets before eliminating them. Naya stepped forward, her luminous eyes blazing with defiance. That's not what I am anymore. Voss's smile was reptilian. Ah, it speaks. Tell your rescuer about the 17 research teams you killed during your activation trials. Prototype. Tell him about the neural pathways we hardwired into your brain to ensure loyalty to the Empire. 30 seconds to jump, Zara announced. Dex felt the world spinning around him. Everything about Nay, her beauty, the way she made him feel, the electric connection between them, was it all artificial? Programming designed to make him trust her? Is it true? He asked quietly. Naya turned to face him, and tears tracked down her cheeks like liquid starlight. Yes, she whispered. I was created to be a weapon. They made me to infiltrate, to seduce, to kill. But Dex, she stepped closer, reaching for his hand. What I feel for you is real. It couldn't program. That away, how can I believe you? Because, she said, placing his hand over her heart, they made one mistake. They gave me the capacity to love, thinking it would make me a better infiltrator. They never considered that love might make me choose differently. The Dominion ships. Closed in, weapons charging for a killing blow. Jake was shouting coordinates. Dr. Reeves was cursing over his medical readings, and Zara was counting down to jump. But all Dex could see were Naya's eyes, searching his face desperately. 10 seconds to jump. Admiral Voss leaned forward on the screen. She'll betray you, Morrison. It's her nature. 5 seconds. Dex made his choice. He pulled Naya against him and kissed her fiercely, tasting starlight and ozone and something indefinably sweet. Around them, the ship's systems sang with harmonic resonance as her abilities amplified their power. Jump! He called out. The Nebula runner vanished into hyperspace just as the Dominion volley reached them, the swirling tunnel of folded space. Dex held Naya close, feeling her trembling against him. I choose to trust you, he murmured against her hair. Even knowing what I am, especially knowing what you are. Because you chose to warn me instead of completing your mission. That's not programming, Naya. That's humanity. She looked up at him with wonder. The Celestians believed that consciousness could evolve beyond its origins. Maybe they were right. Where to, Captain? Jake asked, though his tone suggested he was questioning more than their destination. Dex thought about Voss's words, about synthetic beings and extinct races and the woman in his arms who felt more real than anything he'd ever known. Set course for the Asteria research station. If Naya's origins are Celestian, Dr. Vale might have answers. The archaeologist. Reeves raised an eyebrow. She's been studying dead alien civilizations for 40 years. Maybe it's time we learned why they went extinct, Dex replied, his arms still around Naya. Whether they're as dead as everyone thinks. As the ship hurtled through hyperspace toward uncertain answers, Naya's abilities continued to resonate through the ship's systems. But more than that, Dex could feel something changing in himself as, if her presence was awakening potentials in his own consciousness he'd never known existed. Behind them, Admiral Voss was undoubtedly plotting pursuit. Ahead lay mysteries that might reshape everything they thought they knew about life, consciousness, and the boundaries between species. But in this moment, holding Naya as stars streaked past them like tears of light, Dex felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Hope. The real journey was just beginning. The Asteria research station hung in the shadow of a dead moon like a steel flower blooming in darkness. Dr. Myra Vale had spent the last decade here, studying the ruins of what might have been the last Celestian outpost in known space. When the Nebula runner docked, she greeted them with the eager enthusiasm of someone who'd been alone with ancient mysteries for too long. Captain Morrison, she said, her silver hair wild from excitement and neglect, your message was quite intriguing. A living Celestian? Impossible, of course, but... Her words died as she saw Naya step from the airlock. Professor Vale was a woman who dedicated her life to studying the theoretical, but faced with the impossible made flesh, she simply stared. Naya's luminous beauty seemed almost to illuminate the dim station corridors. Not Celestian, Naya said gently, but perhaps the next best thing. Vale led them through corridors lined with artifacts and holographic displays showing the ruins. Below, the Celestians didn't die out, she explained as they walked. According to the fragments I've translated, they transcended, evolved beyond physical form into pure consciousness. That's just a theory, Dr. Reeves protested. Is it? Vale gestured to a massive holographic display showing swirling patterns. of energy. These readings come from the temple complex below. The energy signatures are consistent with quantum consciousness minds existing as organized. Information in the quantum foam itself. Dex studied the patterns, feeling a strange familiarity he couldn't explain. What does this have to do with Naya? Everything, Vale said, her eyes bright with discovery. I'm right, she's not just a weapon or an infiltrator. She's a bridge. A living interface between human consciousness and Celestian transcendence. Aya had been studying the displays with growing intensity. Now she turned to them, her face pale but determined. There's something down there. I can feel it calling to me. The temple Vale nodded. I've never been able to activate the central chamber. The quantum locks require both human neural patterns and Celestian resonance frequencies. I have the human side, but now you have me, Naya. Finished. Alarms suddenly blared through the station. Zur's voice crackled over the comm system. Captain, we have incoming ships. 3 vessels. Configuration unknown. Dex's blood went cold. Dominion, negative. These are independent contractors. Bounty hunters. Professor Vale paled. The bounty. On the station's research has been substantial. Word got out about a living Celestin. ... How long until they dock? Dex demanded. 15 minutes, assuming they don't just blast the station apart first. Dex made a quick decision. Vale, take us to this temple. Now, if there are answers down there, we need them before those hunters arrive. The transport down to the lunar surface was a cramped affair in Vale's research shuttle. The temple complex spread across a crater. Floor like a frozen symphony, its crystalline spires reaching toward the star-filled sky. Even through the shuttle's viewports, Dex could feel something ancient and patient watching them. The central chamber is here, Vale said, leading them through corridors carved from living crystal. The walls pulsed with faint bioluminescence that seemed to respond to Naya's presence. The chamber itself defied description, a vast spherical room with a raised dais in the center, surrounded by floating crystals that hummed with barely contained energy. The moment they entered, the crystals began to resonate more intensely. It knows you're here, Vale breathed. Naya approached the dais slowly, her hand extended. I can hear them, she whispered. The Celestians, they're not gone. They're waiting. Waiting. For what? Dex asked. For someone who could bridge the gap between flesh and transcendence, between human determination and Celestian wisdom. She placed her hand on the central crystal, and the chamber exploded with light. Images flooded their minds, the history of the Celestians, their gradual evolution beyond physical form, their hope that other species might follow the same path. But not all the visions were peaceful. They saw the Dominion's experiments, the attempts to weaponize Celestian technology, creation of beings like Naya, who were meant to be tools of conquest rather than bridges of understanding. They made me wrong, Naya said, her voice echoing strangely in the chamber. But love is the key they never understood. It's what transforms a weapon into a bridge. The station shook as the bounty hunters began their assault above. Captain. Rex Dalton's voice boomed over hijacked communication channels. This is Captain Dalton of the Iron Fist. Professor Vale. Yes. You have something that belongs to our employer. Surrender the Celestian artifact, and no one needs to die. Artifact, Naya laughed bitterly. Is that what I am? You're whatever you choose to be, Dex said firmly, taking her other hand. The moment their skin touched, the chamber's resonance doubled, and new pathways opened in the crystal matrix around them. The gateway, Vale gasped. You're activating the Transcendence Gateway. A portal of swirling energy materialized at the far end of the chamber. Through it, they could see a realm of pure thought and possibility, the domain where the Celestians now existed. That's our way out, Jake said. But Naya shook her head. Not out. Forward. If we go through, we enter their realm. We might not be able to come back. The sound of cutting tools echoed from above as Dalton's team breached the station's hull. They had minutes, at most, before the hunters reached the temple. What happens if we don't go? Dex asked. Dalton takes me back to the Dominion to learn what I've discovered here, and they use it to create an army of beings like me, but without the capacity for love, without the ability to choose. Dex looked into her luminous eyes and saw not a weapon or an artifact, but a woman who'd chosen love over programming, hope over despair. Then we go forward, he said. Together. Together. As the first bounty hunters burst into the chamber, weapons blazing, Dex and Naya stepped hand in hand into the swirling portal. The last thing they heard was Professor Vale shouting, "Tell them we chose evolution." The gateway closed behind them with a sound like reality itself sighing in relief. The realm beyond the gateway was not a place, but a state of being consciousness, unmoored from the constraints of matter and time. Dex felt his awareness expanding, touching thoughts and memories that weren't his own, while somehow remaining fundamentally himself. Beside him, Naya blazed like a star, her form shifting between the woman he knew and something far more luminous and complex. "Welcome to the domain of mind," she said, though her lips didn't move. Here, communication was pure thought. Around them, the Celestian collective manifested as patterns of living light, beings who had shed physical form eons ago, but retained the essence of what they had been. Their thoughts touched Dex's mind like gentle fire. "The Bridgemaker brings the catalyst," they observed. "Human will wedded to hybrid consciousness. The experiment reaches its culmination." Experiment? Dex found his voice in this realm of pure thought. Is that all this has been? The collective pulsed with something that might have been amusement. All evolution is experimentation. Human-who-loves-beyond-species. Your kind stands at a crossroads. You may transcend your limitations, or you may destroy yourselves in ignorance and fear. And Naya, the Bridgemaker, is both test and teacher. Through her, you learn whether love can overcome programming, whether consciousness can evolve beyond its origins. But their communion was interrupted by a violent distortion in the realm's harmony. Admiral Voss materialized in the distance, his form crackling with stolen Celestian technology. He wasn't alone. A squad of Dominion soldiers flanked him, their minds protected by psi-shields that burned like acid against the realm's peaceful radiance. "Impossible," Naya breathed. "How did they follow us?" The collective's dismay rippled through the space around them. "It's the Destroyer. Abridges bears our own technology, corrupted and weaponized. He tears wounds in the fabric of consciousness itself." Voss's amplified voice boomed across the realm. "Did you think you could hide from the Dominion in fairy tales and dreams? This realm will be mapped, cataloged, and conquered. Starting with retrieving our property." The soldiers raised weapons that shouldn't have been able to function in a realm of pure thought. But the corrupted Celestian tech made the impossible. Real energy beams lanced toward Dex and Naya, each shot carrying not just destructive force, but concentrated hatred and fear. "He's poisoning this place," Naya said, her form flickering as the realm's stability wavered. "His emotions are manifesting as a destructive force." "Then we fight back with something stronger," Dex replied. Pulling her close, in the physical world, their love had been chemistry and choice. Here, in a realm where thought became reality, it was something far more powerful. Their combined consciousness blazed like a newborn star, pushing back the darkness that Voss brought with him. "Fascinating," the collective observed. "Love is evolutionary catalyst. Consciousness expansion through emotional resonance." But Voss had prepared for this. His psi-shields deflected their combined radiance, and his stolen technology allowed him to wound the very structure of the realm. Cracks appeared in the luminous space around them, bleeding chaotic energy. "You cannot hide behind pretty lights forever," Voss snarled, advancing with mechanical precision. "The prototype will return to serve the Empire's glory, and this realm will become another Dominion research facility." That was when Dex understood what the Celestians had been trying to tell them. This wasn't about fighting. It was about choosing what kind of beings they wanted to become. "Naya," he said, his consciousness touching hers with infinite tenderness. "Trust me. Trust us." She looked at him with eyes that held starlight and possibility. "Always." Together, they stopped trying to fight Voss's hatred and instead chose to transform it. Their combined love reached out, not to destroy the Admiral, but to show him what he could become. In the realm of pure consciousness, pretense was impossible. Voss felt their genuine compassion for him, their hope that even he might choose evolution over destruction. For a moment, the Admiral's facade cracked. Dex glimpsed the frightened child beneath the military conditioning. The lonely man who'd built walls of anger around a heart that had forgotten how to feel. In that instant of vulnerability, the corrupted technology failed him. No, Voss gasped, falling to his knees in the luminous space. I won't be. The collective's presence grew stronger, more defined.
Choose.
Destroyer of bridges.
Remain trapped in cycles of fear and conquest. Or allow consciousness to grow beyond its limitations. But transformation couldn't be forced, only offered. Voss
Chose fear, his mind slamming shut against the possibility of change. The stolen technology reignited, and he and his soldiers vanished back to the physical realm, leaving only echoes of bitter laughter. He'll be back, Naya said sadly. With more ships, more weapons. Then we'd better make sure we're ready, Dex replied. Around them, the realm pulsed with new harmonies as their consciousness continued to expand and interweave. The collective gathered close, their ancient wisdom flowing through thoughts that had no need for words. The bridge is built. The catalyst is proven. Now comes the true test. Can love transform an entire species? Dex felt the truth of it settling in his expanded awareness. He and Naya weren't just lovers anymore. They were something new, a hybrid consciousness that could exist in both realms. The first of what humanity might become. What happens now? He asked. Now the collective replied, you return to your realm and show them the path forward. Love as evolution, connection as transcendence. The future as choice rather than destiny. Hand in hand, consciousness intertwined. Dex and Naya stepped back toward the gateway that would return them to the physical world. But they carried the realm with them now, a bridge between what humanity was and what it could become. The gateway materialized aboard the Nebula Runner in a cascade of starlight and possibility. Professor Vale stumbled backward as Dex and Naya emerged, their forms subtly changed, more luminous, more present, as if they occupied both physical space and somewhere else entirely. My God, Vale whispered. You're both ... different. Evolve, Naya corrected gently. Her voice carried harmonics that hadn't been there before. Frequencies that resonated in the quantum structure of reality itself. Jake lowered his weapon, staring. At his Captain Dex. Are you still? You? More myself than I've ever been, Dex replied. When he looked at his friend, he could see the patterns of Jake's consciousness, the fears and hopes that drove him. But rather than invasive, felt like finally understanding a language he'd always heard but never comprehended. ZARAS hologram flickered with unusual instability. Captain, my sensors are detecting massive quantum fluctuations. We have incoming 50 Dominion warships just dropped out of hyperspace. Through the viewports, space blazed with the angular malevolence of Admiral Voss's fleet. The Nebula Runner was hopelessly outgunned, a minnow facing a school of predatory sharks. He's not going to negotiate this time, Jake said grimly. Then, we don't fight, Dex said. We transform. Naya took his hand, and immediately their hybrid consciousness expanded outward. Touching the ship's systems with gentle precision, the Nebula Runner sang with newfound harmony as quantum fields aligned in configurations that shouldn't have been possible. What are you doing? Dr. Reeves demanded. Building a bridge, Naya replied. Around them, the ship's hull began to glow. With the same luminescence that had marked the Celestian realm, Voss's voice crackled over the communications array. Tight with barely controlled fury, surrender immediately or be destroyed. This is your final warning. Admiral Dex replied, his consciousness touching the communication system directly. I'd like to show you something. Instead of words, he transmitted pure experience, the memory of standing in the Celestian realm. Feeling consciousness expand beyond the boundaries of flesh and fear. For a brief moment, every being in the Dominion fleet felt what Dex and Naya had discovered, the possibility of evolution beyond violence, co-connection beyond conquest. The response was immediate and chaotic. Some ships powered down their weapons. As their crews grappled with visions of transcendence, others opened fire in reflexive terror at the unknown. But the energy beams that struck the nebula, Runner didn't destroy, they were absorbed and transformed by the quantum field surrounding the ship. The destructive force became creative energy, feeding back into the pattern that Dexa and Naya were weaving. Impossible, Voss snarled over the cum. No defense system can convert weapons fire into it's not a defense system, Naya interrupted, her voice carrying across all frequencies simultaneously. It's love made manifest, Admiral. The force that transforms weapons into art, fear into understanding. Around the nebula runner, space itself began to change. The quantum fields they were generating created a localized region where consciousness could exist partially unbound from matter. Ships throughout the fleet found their crews experiencing moments of expanded awareness, seeing through each other's eyes, feeling each other's hopes and fears. Stand down, some captains began broadcasting. We need to understand what's happening. Voss had prepared for this possibility. His flagship, the Iron Throne, was equipped with consciousness dampeners technology designed to suppress psychic phenomena. He used them now, creating a dead zone around his ship where the expanded awareness couldn't reach. You want to show them transcendence? Voss broadcast, his voice venomous with hatred. Watch them die first. The Iron Throne's main cannon, charged a planet-killer weapon that would vaporize everything within 1,000 kilometers. But as the weapon powered up, something unexpected happened. The crew of the Nebula Runner, Jake, Dr. Reeves, Professor Vale, even Zara found their consciousness expanding to touch Dex and Naya's hybrid awareness, not absorbing them, but creating a network of connected minds, each retaining their individuality while contributing to something greater. We're all bridges now, Jake said in wonder, his fear transforming into curious excitement. The network reached out through the quantum field, touching the crews of ships throughout the fleet. One by one, consciousness expanded and connected. The Dominion fleet was becoming something unprecedented, a collective intelligence that spanned dozens of ships and thousands of minds. Fire! Voss screamed, but his own crew hesitated. Could feel their intended victims now, sense their hopes and dreams and loves. The order to commit genocide became impossible to obey. Admiral, one of his officers, said softly, "They're not our enemies. They single quotes us. Just trying to grow beyond what we were." Voss shot the officer and seized manual control of the weapon. But as his finger hovered over the firing stud, he found himself facing not the Nebula Runner but Naya herself, somehow standing in his command center despite the consciousness dampeners. How? He gasped. Love transcends technology, Marcus, she said gently, using his first name like a benediction. It finds a way through every barrier, around every defense. God. Because it doesn't seek to conquer it seeks to connect. I won't let. You change me, he snarled, raising his sidearm. I'm not here to change you, Naya replied. I'm here to show you that you've already changed. You've been part of this network since the moment you chose to pursue us. Every thought of conquest contained its opposite, the secret longing for connection. And suddenly, Voss could feel it, the vast network of consciousness spreading through his fleet. Touching his own mind, despite every barrier he'd erected, he felt his crew's wonder as they experienced existence beyond the narrow confines of their individual selves. He felt their joy as fear dissolved into understanding, most painful of all. He felt their compassion for him, the recognition that his hatred came from a lifetime of wounds that had never been allowed to heal. I want to, double quotes. He whispered, the weapon shaking in his hand. You don't have to, Naya said. Just allow yourself to feel what you've been hiding from for so long. The barriers cracked. For the first time in decades, Admiral Marcus Voss allowed himself to feel genuine emotion. The pain was overwhelming, but so was the relief of finally letting it go. The weapon fell from his nerveless fingers as he collapsed to his knees, his tears streaming down his face. Throughout the fleet, a transformation was occurring. The hierarchy of the Dominion military dissolved into something organic and voluntary. A community of minds choosing to work together rather than being forced to obey. 6 months later, Sanctuary Station orbited a blue-white star in what had once been neutral space. The station itself was a marvel of hybrid technologies, a seeping merged with human ingenuity. Here, Beings from dozens of species came to learn the art of voluntary evolution. Dex and Naya stood on the observation deck, watching as a group of former Dominion soldiers worked alongside Celestian energy beings to construct a new wing of the station. Their forms flickered between physical and transcendent states as they chose which mode of existence best suited their current tasks. Admiral Voss wants to expand the Sanctuary program to 12 more systems, Naya reported, reviewing data streams. That flowed directly into her consciousness. And how is our former enemy adapting to his new role as ambassador of connection? Ax asked with gentle humor. He says the hardest part is forgiving himself for all the years he spent choosing fear over love. Dex pulled her close, marveling as always at how perfectly she fit against him. Their love had literally reshaped reality, creating new possibilities. For consciousness itself, think we made the right choice? Giving up a simple life of salvage and small adventures? Naya looked up at him, her eyes holding depths that now contained entire universes of possibility. Would you choose differently? If you could go back, never, he said, and kissed her as stars wheeled overhead and consciousness danced through quantum foam. Creating new patterns of beauty and connection with each passing moment, they had rescued each other from loneliness and discovered that love, freely given and freely received, was the most powerful force in any universe. Around them, the cosmos continued its ancient dance. But now it danced to rhythms of choice and growth, rather than conquest and fear. The future stretched ahead, bright with infinite possibility.